So it says you are live on YouTube.
Thank you, Christy. So welcome, everyone. We're going to open our regular meeting of council. This council meeting is live streamed and electronically. So I'm going to open the meeting August the 3rd, 2021 at 6 p.m. I guess I'll just also say that I hope everybody is having a good summer and ask that everybody please stay safe. So we're going to open our meeting also by having a moment of silence, please, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Also, I think it's quite fitting that I also say that on behalf of all of the residents of Montague Township and our staff and our council, we wish lots of luck to our local athlete, Brooke Henderson, who is, I believe it's around maybe 7:30 tonight that she'll be teeing off in the first round for the golf at the Olympics. And I think then she's probably doing another round tomorrow. So we wish Brooke lots of luck for tonight, and we'll look forward to the results after our meeting. Thanks, everybody. I will also have a motion here. It was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer that council agreed to move items. Now, are there any items there moved forward? Joanna, I don't think so, is there? Okay, then we'll just disregard that motion. Also, I would like to mention to all of council that if you have any declaration to disclose, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. I do have a motion moved by Klaus Vandermeer and seconded by Jeff Carroll that the regular meeting of council agenda dated August the 3rd, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Also, I have another motion moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that the minutes of the special meeting of council, July the 6th, 2021, second special meeting of council, July 6th, 2021, be approved as circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from any of those minutes? Seeing none. No, seeing none. Well, then we're going to move on. We do have two delegations tonight. And the first one, we're very happy to have you, Mr. Howard Allen, to do our 2020 year-end financial statements. And thank you there, Mr. Allen. So welcome, and I'll give you the screen.
Well, thank you. I just want to be sure that you can hear me okay.
Yes, very clear.
Good. So I think you all will have received a copy of the financial statements. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that overall, you know, the role of an auditor when they come in is to ensure that the financial statements that are presented to the ratepayers and to the province are free of material misstatement, and that they fairly reflect the activity and the year-end balance sheet of the municipality. And I would say that this year is proved not to be an exception to that. Clearly, you know, there were challenges in 2020 due to COVID, but I would say generally speaking, the challenges were greater for municipalities that had, you know, large transit budgets or budgets where they had a lot of money spent in recreational areas. But for us, I mean, in Montague, I think for the most part, you know, the council and Andrew and the staff acted in a very prudent manner. And we really had a good year, I think, financially. If you look at the statement of operations and the budget that was established by council, we're really very close to what we budgeted in terms of our final results. And that's after council enacted, you know, a bylaw or a resolution to reduce penalties and interest, so they were down. But overall revenues were a little bit higher than what we budgeted. And in terms of our expenditures, again, it was very close to budget. Some of the capital projects that we anticipated completing were not completed in 2020. And so if you look at the year end, I mean, we actually had a surplus, a nice surplus from operations, and we do budget for depreciation. So that's after depreciation. So we did have a nice surplus of about $715,000. And then of course we did receive some monies for capital projects. For example, we do get some gas tax and we did get some government grants. So overall, we ended up with a nice surplus for the year of about $800,000. Now we need that money, as you know, so we can carry out our capital projects. And as I mentioned, you know, we did budget capital projects, you know, close to 700,000, between 650 and 700,000, and we only spent around 400. So the net result is that we actually increased our financial assets this year in the township. But some of this, of course, is due to projects being deferred until the ensuing year. So our net financial assets at the end of the year exceeded 5 million. And if you look at the balance sheet or the statement of financial position, you'll see that that is comprised of cash and taxes receivable, accounts receivable minus our liabilities. So I would say, you know, that in 2020, despite COVID, from a financial perspective, the township of Montague did well. You know, in terms of our financial indicators, I think overall, they're very positive. I mean, I was happy to see that tax arrears were down to 10.25%. So despite COVID, you know, the residents of Montague did pay their taxes. And I think that's the lowest that I've seen in the last 5 years. You know, our certain rates of taxation that we have, I mean, are competitive. I wonder what's going to happen to taxation rates, because I think we've all seen a significant appreciation in property values. And when MPAC finally comes out with their new numbers, it'll be interesting to see what the real impact of that is on municipalities in Lanark County. So overall, I mean, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions, but I really think that despite the COVID situation that we had in 2020, the township acted responsibly. The staff, the accounting staff, did a fine job in terms of putting their documents together, and I think that the audit went well. So I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Howard. So I will open it up to council if we have any questions. There was one that I thought about when I was reading the report there, Howard, and near the beginning, you talk about sometimes, I think probably every year, when you're preparing the statements, you also mention that it sometimes involves estimates. And my question is, like, are the estimates that we use and you use from one year to the next fairly consistent? Because I know that sometimes we really don't know what the end result is until everything's paid till the end of the year. But are we fairly consistent on that?
Well, I think our methodology is consistent. You know, we wouldn't have the estimates that maybe other municipalities would have. Let me give you a good example. and that might be a waste site. So if we had a waste site, what municipalities have to do is they have to estimate the future liability of what it's going to cost to close that site. And they have to also disclose the costs related to monitoring those sites. So, in that particular situation, I mean, what we try to rely on are reports from engineering companies, from people that have expertise in those areas, as opposed to us coming up with estimates. We might estimate liabilities in certain cases. Let's say, for example, we didn't get some bills that we would normally get at the end of the year. Then we might have to make some estimates in that particular area as well. One of the things that is going to change is if we have any property that we own that is contaminated or has environmental liabilities, we're going to have to make some estimates on that shortly. I believe it's starting in 2023 for properties as to what the impact that might have on a municipality. Up until now, we've only had to estimate liabilities for those properties that we didn't use on a day-to-day basis, but the rules are changing, and that could have some impact on the records of municipalities. So we're going to have to sort of establish a protocol as to, all the properties that the township would own and which of those properties may be contaminated. It could be garage properties, it could be salt sheds, it could be things of that nature, where we're going to have to make more estimates in the future. But I would say that from a materiality perspective, we don't use huge estimates in the township of Montague.
Thanks, Howard. So I don't see any other questions, Howard. So I do want to thank you very much for coming and giving us this report, because probably it's one of our most important reports and delegations that we receive. So I want to thank you, Howard, for coming and doing that. But also I want to thank our treasurer, Andrew, who and others who have helped to compile all the figures. I'm pretty sure that the results are reflective of the quality of their work, and I feel quite confident that as on an ongoing basis, it sure helps you to do your job. So I want to just acknowledge the work of our treasurer and others who have helped him also. So thank you, Howard. And I think that's it, unless you want to have anything else to say.
No, thank you. And I would second your commendation of your staff. It's good for council to have up-to-date and accurate information so they can make the best decisions.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So I have a motion that was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight that council receive this presentation from the Howard Allen and Partners 2020 year-end financial statements for information. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, thank you, everyone. Now we're going to go to our second delegation tonight, a presentation. And we have Mary Catherine Mayhack, and that's going to be the report, the Recreation Feasibility Study report. So Mary Catherine, are you with us on the screen there yet? There we are.
Here I am.
Thanks, Mary Catherine, for returning again, and I'll pass the screen over to you. So thank you.
Thank you. We also have Gina Richards from Think Design joining us tonight. She's one of the staff with the design team that worked on the study. So thank you. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this works. Yes. Okay. Okay, so I don't know why it's not. Sorry, I don't know why it's not going full screen here. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead because I only have 10 minutes and there's a lot to do and a lot to share in 10 minutes. Thank you very much, Mayor Dobson and members of council. We're here tonight to present the draft of the recreation feasibility study for the Township of Montague. My name is Mary Catherine Mihak and I was the lead on the project. And as I said, joining me tonight is Gina Richardson from Think Design. And she's going to be taking notes just to make sure that we capture anything we need to look at and possibly clarify. And unfortunately, Mike Tucker, who is the design lead from Think Design, wasn't able to join us tonight, but we'll be sure to get back to you with any questions that you may have for him. So the purpose of the feasibility study was to respond to directives in the strategic plan and to investigate developing the feasibility of developing a recreation hub or community park at the 22-acre site that municipality owns next to the school. And at the beginning of the project, we expanded the scope a bit to identify opportunities to use existing assets to provide recreation services to the community at Montague Hall and possibly the Senior Center. So the consultation components of the project included a resident household survey, for which we had 183 respondents, 3 of whom were non-residents. And just to put this in perspective, the 180 households represent 12.6% of the households in the municipality in 2016. We also did a detailed survey of sports and recreation groups in what we identified as a regional. Sorry. Does somebody want to ask a question? No?
No, I'm sorry for interrupting, Mary Catherine, but you're cutting out on my iPad here. I don't know if you're cutting out on anyone else's. Can we just double check?
I receive it fine.
Can you hear
Pardon?
me?
It's you, Bill.
What were we cutting out with anyone else? Okay, I hope that it's not going to cause me problems here, but sorry for interrupting. I'll just try to let it go then.
Yeah, I'm as close to my router as I can possibly be. So hopefully it's not at this end. Anyway, so we also did a detailed survey of sports and recreation groups in the regional market to see if there might be interest in using facilities locally. We got 10 out of 39 that we issued, and 2 were not on the original list, and there was 1 additional one who didn't complete the survey, so we couldn't use their information. We also contacted 9 agencies and groups in the area regarding programming at Montague Hall and also at a new community park. And 2 of these we couldn't get a hold of. 1 was no longer in operation. That was a youth group, and I believe it was a Civitan Smith Falls Civitan group that didn't respond to our requests. We also started out with interviews at the beginning of the process with municipal representatives, including council, and we also met with the recreation committee at the outset to get their input. So the feasibility report structure was in 3 parts: background, which kind of set the stage for the analysis, and the second part, which was the feasibility analysis to assess the potential for the township to develop the site and to reasonably support facilities on the site to serve different interests. And the part 3 was the little bit of additional work we did on looking at using existing assets to do some expanded programming. Now, the factors that we looked at were numerous. I don't have the results here because we don't have time to go through all the results, but what we looked at, factors contributing to the feasibility study was community interest, the regional service market, recreation service development in other area municipalities, site characteristics, the township's financial capacity to support capital development and operations, general trends in recreation, and the major indoor facility development that couldn't be considered because of cost, untenable cost to the municipalities. So all of those things considered, we came up with a site design concept that would allow us to look at two components, a community park component and a regional park component that could be looked at as two parts of the same site. And the rationale for that approach was that the community park component was less capitally intensive, and it had stronger interest, I think, in the local residents in terms of what might be provided for outside facilities and outdoor recreation versus indoor recreation, because there wasn't a great deal of interest in major indoor recreation facilities. And there's currently no park that functions as a hub for current and future residents. And it could be developed, or it can be developed without the cost of servicing the site. And it does recognize the limited financial capacity for the municipality to self-fund and the need to rely on capital grants, from outside sources. The regional component looked at the opportunity to accrue revenue from facilities that would generate use from outside users, but there wasn't a great deal of need for that we could determine in the current market, but that might change as population grows and facility needs increase in the larger market. And also it considered the limited ability to self-fund a major recreation facility without additional grants from other sources. So the site design was organized to create kind of a symbiotic relationship between the school and park so that they would read as one, and it preserves natural features of the site and as part of the design features and within the park itself, organizes facilities to allow for an incremental implementation and avoid noticeable gaps if or when specific components are constructed at a later date. And it provides a path network that connects everything within the site. And it separates the community and regional components so that each can function simultaneously in each area. So the park, for lack of a better name, we call it Montague Park, and the community park component is this area here, which would comprise parking and multi-purpose field, multi-purpose sport pad, pathways, a play structure, playing fields, a community garden, an outdoor education area, and a dog park, and a trail that runs through the wooded area, and also a path connecting all the components. And the school is over here, so there would be a link to the school on this side. So this is essentially the community park to serve local residents. So our high level estimate of capital costs for this particular concept is $3.4 million, which this includes contingencies and design and engineering. And then the regional park component, which is this area here, could comprise an artificial multi-purpose field, which could or could not be covered at some point with an air-supported dome structure and an entrance building, which could also be used for offices and some meeting space or multi-purpose room, and a pathway again, and more parking to connect it to the community park component, and a buffer planting to separate the two. So this particular part of the design was estimated at $8.1 million. So that's for this. So it was a separate price for this component. So for both components, so actual costs would vary depending on the actual design and material used and things that we can't identify in advance of site work. But costs shown here are based on our experience and represent those for what we consider to be a finished part at a mid-range cost. So not low end, not high end, but somewhere in the middle. In terms of operating costs and revenues, the community component would generate fairly limited revenues with the exception of field rentals. It would be largely for community use, for self-directed esse, get-togethers, socializing. There might be some rentals of the covered space, but there would still be requirement staff for field and grounds maintenance, and also for any rentals that did occur. Somebody would have to oversee that component of the administration. The regional component would require staffing to ensure that the facility is booked, used, and programs and rentals are actively sought, and also attendance to service users and the facility while it's operating. So this is a very high level operating cost revenue estimates based on the other facilities that we looked at as examples, which was the Russell Township Sports Dome, the Hastings Fieldhouse, which is Trent Hills, and the RDACP, which is in Guelph Aramosa Township. The first two are air supported structures, and the Guelph Aramosa complex is a permanent structure. But I never did get the information from them on what the structure is made of. We had some issues, I think, around getting information from people through COVID. They were very helpful to the point they could be, but sometimes they just couldn't get back to me with questions I had. So, but it is a permanent structure. So this represents, based on those examples and some averaging and population estimates for use locally, the total costs and revenues that could occur at a reasonable level of use. So as you see, the net deficit is $60,000, and I don't think that many of these facilities actually operate at cost recovery. I wasn't able to find any that do, so there's always some level of deficit to be supported. But they're also the revenue estimates we've shown here are limited to that generated by field rentals and memberships, which would be the two primary sources of income. Other fees are incidental, and these would be the two primary reasons you would provide a facility of this nature. And within this estimate, residents of Montague alone would represent roughly $52,000 annually in memberships. The balance would come from largely people in Smiths Falls, because that was those are the groups that largely responded to the survey, and they seem to be the most likely to use a facility in Montague. And staff we spoke to at the other facilities were very clear on the need to proactively promote the facility to optimize rentals, and to work with the community to build programming activities that can occur in off-peak times. So it's not a case of build it and they will come. It really is deliberate work to optimize the use and revenue generation of the facility. That's why staff would have to be dedicated to that purpose. So a two-phased approach does not preclude more breaking it down to more manageable increments, but those are the two major phases. Within each, things could be done as smaller projects over time. The estimated total capital costs, if funded in a three-way funding model, as is the traditional way, would be approximately 1 million for the community park component from the township and 1.9 from the regional park for the regional park component. So really our recommendations are that the township should really only consider the potential development of a 22-acre site for recreation purposes on an incremental basis, starting first with the phase development of the community serving component, and the sequencing of which would be developed or determined in consultation with the community as at the design process. So you would go to the community and get them involved in designing the park at the time. And then proceeding to phase development of facilities to also serve the regional market, but that should really only occur on confirmation of sufficient demand to cover or as close to cover as possible operating costs or the level of deficit that the municipality is willing to carry. Because the bulk of demand will come from outside the township. So it's important that, first of all, that demand be determined, and also that other municipalities who are also looking to develop facilities, including Smith Falls, which is doing a master plan right now, which may, who knows, recommend another field house, to be cognizant of what's happening in other municipalities to ensure that you will capture that market. And both the community and regional park components, again, will require funding from outside sources, to make them viable, as well as local fundraising campaigns, which there seemed to be some level of interest in the community in participating in. For the final piece, which was the leveraging existing recreation assets, we interviewed the representatives of 7 local agencies groups, and there seems to be considerable potential for existing groups to do programming both at the hall and potentially in a new community park. Resident input actually included both interest in facilities and programs, which are identified separately in an appendix to the report, and many of which could be developed now without the benefit of additional facilities. And residents indicate that they do use trails in the township or in surrounding communities and would like to use them more, but they seem to be fairly limited as to what is available in the township. And there was also interest expressed in providing childcare services in Rosedale Hall for working parents who now have to travel to other communities. So our recommendations around leveraging existing recreation assets would be that the Recreation Committee should begin planning program activity development with willing providers who are identified in the report, and to be ready to go once COVID is behind us. Hopefully forever. Developing promotional material to facilitate residents' awareness and use of trails within Montague Township would be something that the township could undertake. And also the final thing was that the using Rosedale Hall for childcare services is really not a viable option for several reasons. Legislatively, there are many requirements around providing childcare facilities, and it would essentially mean probably major renovations to the hall, or ideally building new. And also in terms of operations, staffing, it's very rigorous legislation. And if it should, so that's one major reason, but if it should be used for childcare, it would be a full-time use, and that wouldn't really be available for other activities or uses that the community is interested in. So it would essentially be a dedicated use. So that is the presentation. I don't know if I made 10 minutes. Well, I don't think so.
So, yeah, thank you, Mary Catherine. Maybe can we go back to the full screen now for a minute?
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll just get rid of this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Catherine. I definitely allowed a lot more time than normal, but I really considered this more of a presentation than a delegation, and no, absolutely no problem. This was a really great draft report, and lots and lots and lots of details. So thank you for that. And now I will open it up and to council and staff if we have any questions. And the first hand up I see was Claus.
Thank you, Reeve. Mayor Catherine, that was an excellent presentation. Very informative. Just a question, the percentages of response and so forth that you quoted on several questions and so forth, is that a good average, or are you happy with that kind of percentage?
Well, in terms of numbers, it's not great, but in terms of the representation based on population, it's not bad. And that because we were asking people in these surveys, we asked people to respond on behalf of their households, so they're actually representing more than just themselves.
Well, okay.
Survey, yeah.
Okay,
so,
that's better.
Not bad. Yeah.
Because I know most surveys, if you get 10% response, they say that's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of clarifying questions there, Catherine. You had said in your report there at some point that there was no, did you say something about no interest in indoor activities as opposed to outdoor activities?
Well, there's never no interest, but there was more limited interest. Like people focused more on getting some outdoor things happening, right? So yeah, that was.
So I just think, thank you. I just think that it's somewhat disconcerting because we've spent so much money on Rosedale Hall renovating and updating it. But we also know that we've got a pretty avid, interested recreation group that's biting at the bit to get started, as you say, and provide programming and so on.
Okay, I just want to make one point. When I mean outdoor, when I talk about outdoor activities, we were asking specifically for the new site. We weren't asking about, because we couldn't ask about that. The focus was the new site, and when we spoke to, we saw that people were identifying programs and activities they're interested in. And if you look in the report, you'll see there's lots of indoor things they would like to have happen in the way of programs. But those are the kinds of things that we would see happening in Rosedale Hall, not at a new park that was primarily outdoor. So it's kind of a complement to the outdoor.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So Jeff, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Catherine. I mean, this is a great. I think this is a great starting course for us for what hopefully we can look at as our municipality grows and as the years go on, and I'm happy for it. I guess one of my questions is for the you alluded or sort of pointed on some of the conceptual drawings as like this is sort of an idea, but then when we get to a stage of say of starting a park or something like that, that's more is that you're saying that's more the idea what to start with, and then get some more community consultation to kind of really develop a more site plan. This is sort of like an overview, right? Is that the
what the designers identified as conceptual for that space, and based on what people were interested in having provided and fitting that within that parcel. But in terms of the actual detailed design, and it would be generally you do get the community involved in either maybe getting a landscape architect to develop some more specific designs and getting people to comment on them or to participate in workshops or to communicate their interest specifically so that specific things can be considered.
So just to follow up that, Reeve, so I guess I mean there might be certain things there where like maybe like not to pick on a dog park, but say like a dog park is not something that is, and I'm just using that as an example, is that's not maybe what the community is looking for when we're going through the consultation. there's sort of the way of moving things around a little bit per se to make it fit in. I mean, I love a lot of the idea of it. I mean, the park idea, the trail system, everything else. I think that's a good direction to work towards, and I think people would like that idea. But there's still some. It's not like that's not like a here's the idea. This is what you got to work towards. I think it's more of like this is sort of the general idea, because once again, it's the tool that we're going to be able to use as we move forward and as we grow in our population, right?
Yeah, and it's not carved in stone by any means. It's just, again, to give you a sense of what could be put there and how much it might cost you, so you have something to start with. And it does reflect, I don't think there were a lot of people who wanted a dog park, but there was different levels of interest in different things, but certainly there was interest in space for outdoor activities and gardens and things and these are things that are essentially typical in many communities now that people are asking for. So we also look at what's out, like dog parks never used to be provided, right? But I mean now they're pretty much de rigueur, right, in terms of recreation. So it's kind of looking at what people want, what the trends are, and what space you have, and trying to be relatively judicious financially,
And once again, so I appreciate that, because I think that's the big part of it is if we're going to do something there, it can look daunting at the beginning, obviously, but it's that piecemeal and putting together and having a plan that can help us get there. Because I think that's a great tool for us to start with, and I think that's great. And thank you for this.
You're welcome.
Ian?
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Mayor Catherine. I just wondered, did you guys utilize the whole 22 acres when you're doing the design?
Yes, well, yes, it is the whole site, but each component is less than the whole site. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mary Catherine, I have a couple of questions there, or a comment, I guess. Like regarding the revenues for an indoor facility, I guess my comment is that it would take years and years and years to get to reach your estimates. But I think what would be the most important thing is that how we would manage that. And I think you alluded to the fact that we would need someone either full-time or part-time as a manager. So I guess what I think I read out of that, you mean that, the revenue would depend on how well we promoted it and how well we managed it.
And how much use you can get in there. Yes. And actually the numbers I showed there is for a part-time facility coordinator to start. If you had a full-time, the cost would be, we would add about another $35,000 to a full-time fee to that. So, but the thing is, if you could, and I mean, this is a bit of a risk, I guess, if you could hire somebody in advance of the actual opening to start working on this, so that when it opens, you have some agreements use in, to start right away, as opposed to opening and then starting. But, there's different ways to do it, right? So,
and I have one last question also, is that I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear in what you said. You did say something like that there wasn't much interest from outside involvement with an indoor facility. Did you mean, like, I think what I read was that, I understand, was that you were saying there's a fair amount of interest from the Smith Falls area, but not from the other outside areas. Could you just clarify that for me, please?
Well, we sent out a lot of surveys, and the fact that we only got 10 back suggests that, to me, okay, there's not a huge amount of unmet demand overall in that region, that regional market. But most of what we did get back were groups from Smiths Falls. So Smiths Falls were the largest respondents by location of those 10. So I would say that, I mean, the population growth in that region, by the looks of it, is going to be large. So it looks like now is that there isn't a huge amount of unmet demand, but that might change over time. But it also depends on what other municipalities do around you to potentially capture, that demand, right?
Yeah.
I did contact Beckwith, and they weren't able to, I wasn't able to get information. I know everybody's so busy right now around COVID. I wasn't able to get, I contacted people several times, and I didn't want to bug them anymore. So I was trying to get a sense of their demand. If there's if they're getting use, they have to turn away, but they never did get back to me. So they would be probably your biggest indicator if there is unmet demand for that type of facility. But I know North Greenville has, it was recommended they consider providing an indoor field house in their recreation master plan, which they just completed. So there's, potential things happening around you that might affect what you would do.
Thank you. Any other questions then? Karen.
So thank you. You answered the one question with reference to being local financial comparables versus the ones you used, because I was listening to the ones you gave us, and I see that those are being larger areas to draw people from compared to what we have to draw from. So how many field rentals in that 150,000 are you talking? Because when I talk to other municipalities, now they're not indoor facilities, but they're talking, whether it be for soccer or baseball or whatever, it's very limited income that they get from the rentals. Mm-hmm. So for our field rentals, I would take it would be like an indoor thing that you're talking. So to generate that much revenue, how many rentals are required? How often?
Yeah, I would have to go back to the report to see how I estimated that. It wasn't, I think I said 50% of prime time. So I'd have to go back and see. Can I get back to you on that? Can I email you on that one?
Yep.
Okay. Because I want to get it right.
Okay.
But I did estimate it wasn't.
Maybe if you could email that out back to Joanna, who could forward it out to all of us.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Joanna.
And also, when I've been preparing the presentation, I was reading the report and I noticed some typos and things. So please, if you see any edits you need fixed, please send them back to me so that I can, finalize the report. Hope there's
okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so no further questions then. Thank you again, Mary Catherine, and we'll look forward to the next visit that we have. And we're going to leave it at that for now. So thank you very much. And I do have a motion here that was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer that council receive this presentation from Malak, Kelly and Associates, and Think Design, Recreation Feasibility Study Report for information. All in favor? Okay, that's great. Thanks. All right. Good night then, Mary Catherine.
Thank you. And
good night to your counterpart, who I can't see on the screen right now.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, Gina.
Bye.
Okay, we're going to move on. The next report is from our municipal officer, and that's from our planner, Carl Prinke, on the site plan at 7497 Roger Stevens. And we're going to pass this over to you, Joanna, who is going to handle this for Carl.
Yeah, so this was just basically, you'll see attached in the agenda, it's just the site plan agreement for everyone to review for the development proposed for 7497 Roger Stevens. I don't know if there's any additional questions on this. We do have a bylaw to pass after, after the next report to committee. but it was just more so you guys would remember what it was about.
So I don't see any questions. Thank you, Joanna. I do have a motion moved by Claus Vandermeer and seconded by Karen Jennings that the council receive the following report. That's the site plan for 7497 Roger Stevens, in that the following be approved. The council approve the final site plan for 7497 Roger Stevens and authorize the clerk administrator and the Reeve to execute the final site plan control agreement. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on. The reports to the committees. I do have a motion moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Ian Straight, that the minutes of the special committee of the whole meeting of July the 6th, 2021 be approved as circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we're moving on. Tonight we have no petitions. We have bylaw, the first bylaw here, which was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Jeff Carroll. The bylaw 3837-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement with 104-15251 Ontario Inc., the owners of property described municipally as 7497 Roger Stevens Drive, be read for a second and third time and passed, signed and sealed this third day of August 2021. All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. I have a motion also moved by Jeff Carroll, second by Claus Vandermeer, that council receive this report for council assigned tasks as information. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Before we then recess, we're going to be recessing and then going straight into our committee meeting. So I'm going to ask you, Christy or Joanna, if we have any questions from the public.
Yeah, I have several.
Okay.
Okay, so just be patient. There's quite a few here.
That's okay.
I believe this first question was with respect to the presentation. But it doesn't specify, but however, it says if only 5% were involved, how can it be used to determine the results? Should any following studies be done by paper? I assume that's with reference to the survey.
I think probably Mary Catherine is gone also, so we can't have her for the answer.
I can, if council would like, I can forward that on to her.
Yeah, sure, that's good.
Okay, the next one was, why were the 3 non-residents counted in the survey? I would assume because we were looking for input from outside municipalities as well, to look at the feasibility of having a park and when it would be used. That would be my assumption on that.
Okay.
The third
Now,
one
if there's any other councillors want to comment on that, I'll wait. If I see your hand, I'll take your comment also. So thanks, Joanna.
Sorry, I'm taking over here.
No, that's okay. No.
Feel free to respond. The third one, is there a map of the walking trails in our township? If so, where? If not, why not? I can take a stab at that too if you want.
From what I know of, there is no map of the trails in Montague Township. Now, that's not to say that there shouldn't be, and I'm sure that council would be interested in possibly looking at that in the future. So it's a good question, but the answer is no, I don't believe there is any map. I will say that probably one of the more important trails in Montague Township is the OVRT trail. That's the Ottawa Valley Recreation Trail, which starts at Sturgis Road in Montague and goes all the way to Mattawa. So it's basically Montague to Mattawa, almost 300 kilometers. And that there's been a pile of information in front of the public over the last few years for that trail. But whether we've been promoting the other trails by a map, I guess my answer is no, not that I know of. So I'm going to take two hands, Joanna and Karen, please. Joanna?
I was going to say, I know that the county of Lanark has a fairly comprehensive map of all of the trails in the county. So I would assume that Montague's trails are in that. My understanding is it's fairly comprehensive, but I can't confirm that, but it's a place that we could look. Secondly, I have mentioned that as part of the official plan, it's something worth considering as a schedule to the official plan, that we exactly that mark out where any trails are in existence, and then also consider connection points for those trails, so that if and when development occurs, potentially on a larger scale, like through a subdivision or whatever, we can have at that time links put in to link whatever trails currently exist. And then we end up with a sort of a general idea of where those connections might be that would support active recreation.
So you are correct. There is a Lanark County Trails map, but I'm just saying that that map does not have all of the small little trails that are existing in Montague Township. We've got some small trails, especially in the, I guess I'll say the south or the southeast part of Montague, closer to Merrickville, for instance. And I don't believe that any of those type of trails are on the Lanark County map. But it's a good question. So I guess we'll go on to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Karen had her hand up.
I was just going to inquire about the fact that are the trails maintained or unmaintained trails? If that should be noted as well.
The OVRT trail
Yes.
is definitely maintained
Correct.
at a fairly high level. And I do know of a group of people who have done work on a couple of the smaller trails, again, towards the Merrickville area. But I have no detail on what's been done or what is even needed to be done. So again, I think it's a good question, Karen, and it's something that maybe that we can look at that in a bigger scheme of things in the future, for sure.
I just think it should be noted when we're going to be notifying, here are the trails in the area, whether they are a maintained or an unmaintained, just so that it is documented.
Definitely. Great. Claus?
You're on mute.
I'll learn how to do this yet. I do know when I was out campaigning a couple of years ago, the Long Bush Road, which is one of a trail, that the residents have been maintaining that trail through there. They've been keeping it, well, mainly keeping the garbage picked up. So that I do know.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next question.
How would each council member summarize the study?
So if any councillor wants to speak on this, please feel free. But this would turn into a discussion of the study. And this period right now is for us answering questions. So I'm not sure that we would want to get into this right now. It would be, it's pretty early on in us. We've just ended up receiving this and reading it in the last couple of days. So it's kind of, it might be difficult, but if any councillor wants to answer this, please feel free. Jeff?
I'm just going to say, I think I stated my answer during the discussion with Mary Catherine. So, I mean, the question probably came before then, but I mean, I think I kind of stated it where I thought it came from. So.
Okay, thanks. Okay, then next one.
Under complete tasks, the library box was moved to the play area as council requested, but it was placed on the ground. It is hard to see, difficult to open due to uneven ground, and is not protected from the elements. Is it staff's intention to leave it there?
Guess we'll have to let you answer that, Joanna. If you don't know, then we'll have to get back to the person.
Yeah, I mean, I think we weren't given, staff was not given specific direction as opposed, aside from to put it near the play structure. So that was done. I know this has been sort of brought up previously, and there was a suggestion that maybe it was having difficulty withstanding the elements, which had been mentioned previously. I had forwarded an email to the Recreation Committee attaching some pictures of registered little libraries that are out in the elements, that are constructed to deal with the elements in that regard. If council would like to direct staff for further direction as to how they would like specifically to see it placed and where it's placed and all that, that's something we can look at. I don't know if Steve has a comment on this.
Joanna, I know that in a previous meeting, I know that I had made some comments myself as far as me having a concern of it being in inclement weather, but I guess I wasn't sure that it had even ever been moved yet. But I guess a question of mine would be that if it's not going to work where it is, could it work? Like, does it have to be over right beside the playscape? Could it work if it was under the roof of the entranceway there along the doors on the side of the hall? At least it would be under the roof. Stephen, did you want to comment?
Yeah, we can put it wherever you guys would like, wherever council indicates. We're told in the discretion to place it near the play structure. There's no base with it, and as it wasn't on a budgeted item, we did not construct a base or anything for it.
Yeah, I think maybe I saw Jeff's hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it affixed somewhere, just so it's actually affixed somewhere. I mean, I like the idea, Reeve, of it even underneath like the little shelter in there. Like that'd be kind of a neat idea, and it might be a little bit better lit in there too as well. Or if we can put like whatever, a 4x4 into the ground and basically like affix it to that too as well, that'd be great. But either one, I'd like to see it affixed somewhere. And I agree, it doesn't maybe necessarily be right beside the playscape, but like where maybe at least where one of the lights are kind of on it.
Well, my concern would be that if it's out in the open, maybe it would get, it's certainly going to get, I would think it could easily get damaged, or books could get damaged by the snow blowing. Whereas if it's under,
pretty secure.
Yeah, but if it's under the roof, along the side of the hall, it certainly would be possibly better protected. I'm only suggesting that, Stephen. I did not go down and look at it, so I think we'd have to leave it to you. But it sounds to me that maybe staff direction might be just for you to look at it again and see what you can come up with, having heard the comments. Joanna, please.
I just wanted to make note of something that Steve said, just to be a little bit more clear, that nothing else was done because it was not a budgeted item. So again, that's fine. There is a budget for the Recreation Committee. If they want to use that budget for public works crew time to go out there and devise a means to put it on a post and do that, but it has not been budgeted.
Okay, Jeff.
Real quick, that was going to preclude me to total the questions I was going to ask. I wasn't sure if it was going to be tonight or not, though. But what about if there was members of the community or the community on the rec committee that were to go and fix it somewhere? I mean, obviously we want to make sure that council's okay with it, but if maybe council would be okay with if there was members of the community that wanted to do that. Where's the question? Like that's something I'm sure members that would be more than happy as part of that, the volunteering that they all want to do something along those lines. not that, because we don't need to put it in on the Public Works agenda. I don't think. I think that's something that we could do as a group. I say, or the committee could do as a group.
I'm in agreement with Jeff.
So is there any problem, I guess coming, and I thank Karen for that. Is there any problem if the members, along with even like Councilor Strader and myself, who are the two reps on the committee, we work with that to do that? I mean, and if there's people on the committee that want to help out with that, Councilor Strader, I'm kind of bringing you into that too as well, because you're on the committee with me. If you're game with it, I mean, we don't necessarily like the flagpole. I think we want to make sure we did something for the safety's sake, and it's good done. And I thank the Public Works staff for doing that. But I mean, we don't want to call on Public Works staff for things that we could do ourselves, right? I mean, I think that's a great opportunity for that to do that. So,
yes, Ian.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Councillor Carroll and Councillor Jennings in regards to that. I think it's something that can easily be handled by the Recreation Committee, and I'm pretty sure that we can come up with a solution that will suffice and make sure that everything's waterproofed and it's going to be accessible to the community. So I think it's something we can put on the next agenda and get a plan and get it done.
Joanna, please.
I'm going to be a stickler.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously council directs as you see fit, but we don't, it's not typical that we allow work to occur on the property without appropriate training, WSIB, insurance, liability coverage, that type of thing. So that's just something to consider. If somebody were to be hurt without the appropriate training and without the appropriate coverage, our chances are probably fairly slim, but it needs to be considered.
Okay, back to Ian and then to Klaus.
So my question for Joanna, I guess, is: are the councillors covered under WSIB? No,
I don't believe so, but we could ask the treasurer.
If we are or aren't, I have no problem digging the hole.
Well, Karen says that you're not covered, Ian.
Yeah,
I don't think you are.
it's not looking favorable.
There's risk in everything we do, so it's
okay. So I think what we'll do is, rather than getting into a more of a discussion, because I don't want to get into a bigger discussion right now. We've heard the question. It was a good question. It's been brought to our attention, and I think if we can just kind of leave it for now and let the staff, I think, continue to look at this. And I'm sure that maybe a comment will come out of the next Recreation Committee meeting, maybe. And I hopefully that if our Public Works can look at it again, having heard all of the concerns, and hopefully that come to some sort of a solution from this in the very near future. So I'd like to go on to the next question, Joanna, please.
Okay, this is the last one, I believe, unless Christy has more. It says it's not on the agenda, but does council know how long flags are going to remain at half-mast? So I can field that one unless anyone has another response. But what I've sort of been trying to follow is the protocol as per the federal government. So I've been checking how are the flags raised or not at Parliament Hill, and as of today at probably about 4 o'clock, the flags are still lowered at Parliament Hill. We don't seem to have a flag policy that I can locate. So I'm following what's being done by the federal government, but again, something that council, if they so choose, could direct us to raise the flags if they felt it was appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And Joanna, just as a suggestion, I do believe that there is a flag policy at the county. You may want to just look at that and check it out. I think there is. So Christy, do you have any questions?
I have no other questions here.
Okay, then thank you for Joanna for helping us there with all the questions and the answers. Then we're going to move on. The next resolution that I have here was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight, that council recess at 7:10 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. So we're going to just recess for 2 minutes till we can change over all our papers. So we'll take a couple of minutes, please, and then we'll be right back to our committee meeting. Can you hear me, Karen?
Yes, I can, Bill.
What about your nephew? Is he playing hockey this year?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, I didn't know if he
seems to
was
have
still
gone-
playing.
He seems
Hey?
to have gone to basketball.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is that's about the age level where they start making some big changes.
Yeah.
There's some good basketball programs in Smiths Falls too as well. Like that's one thing I remember even from when I was a kid, where there wasn't as many. Like now, there's some really good. When COVID is over again, I guess, but there is some good programs. So
Yeah, there's always been some great, very good coaches in Smith Falls too.
yes,
I remember Huey Lynn. I used to play with him. But what are you laughing at, Karen?
He was my math teacher in high school.
Oh yeah. Well, sorry, I'm too old for you. But anyways, Huey went on to be the coach of the Carleton University Ravens women's basketball team. So he was right up there with the best of them.
Yep.
I used to teach with his wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it showed how, although he was a teacher for the gym, they didn't have gym enough to fill those hours. That's what he did then, was he taught math as well.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I know he was a good coach, that's for sure. They sure looked up to him.
has it been 2 minutes?
Yeah. We don't, I guess we do have quorum. We can go ahead and get started in a minute. I guess we have Stephen, and do we have Stephen and Andrew still behind the screen there?
I believe so. I see Miles on there too now.
Steve gave us a thumbs up, so that's good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started to our committee, the whole meeting. It is also live streamed and electronically. So it's the August 3rd committee of the whole meeting. We have a motion here. The first one was moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the committee of the whole agenda dated August the 3rd, 2021 be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I will also let council know that if you have any disclosure of interest, you can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. Tonight, we have no delegations, and we've got lots of reports of our municipal officers, and the first few are going to be yours. The first three are going to be yours, Joanna. And the first one is on the social media update. So I'm going to give this part over to you, Joanna. Thanks.
Okay, at the last meeting of council, staff was directed to look into getting a Twitter and Instagram account for the township. And so we did investigate that, and we actually have both an Instagram and Twitter account set up, but not yet activated. As you know, these accounts can be used for regular municipal updates, as well as to help support the Montego Recreation and Culture Committee, raise awareness about the events going on in the township, or any other sort of information that we feel is important to be posted. Staff would be the ones to have access to the accounts to ensure that the posts remain consistent with our social media procedures and sort of the look and appearance using our logo and that type of thing. And it would be approved by the clerk administrator and any participating department heads. Social media posts could also be directed to council through resolution for both council and any township committees that exist. So they are ready to be activated if and when we are given the okay. So the recommendation is that council direct staff to activate a Twitter and Instagram account for the township, and that the account is to be operated solely by township staff as directed by council through resolution.
Any questions? Karen?
Just checking then with the two rec committee reps. This will work for the rec committee's use as to what they were trying to have the other Twitter and Instagram accounts created for?
Jeff?
I think so. I mean, this is the idea, right? Because it's to reach the broader audience, and this is kind of what the idea was. I think this will be a discussion point at the next Recreation Committee meeting, so that once again we can all kind of talk about it. I agree too as well. Like staff should be the sole people, but obviously the staff has a lot of discretion too, as well as like if the Recreation Committee is doing something to making sure that I don't want to have to pass a resolution to make sure that that's being like obviously streamed or posted, like it's the right idea to make sure that we're getting that stuff out there and we're not delaying stuff. But I agree 100% too as well.
Okay. Okay, then I think that's it for Joanna.
Yeah, so everything that's done by the Recreation Committee does have to be passed by a motion of council, but it's not that we wouldn't do it. It's just that that's the procedure. I suppose if there was, an emergency post, I'm sure we wouldn't take issue with doing that. But most of these events are planned way ahead of time, so there should be enough time to get something together to do it.
Jeff?
That's exactly my point. Where the event is approved. So now, or whatever's going on is approved, and it's like, let's make sure that we're putting the information out there. We're not going to pass a resolution for every time we want information put out there. It's like, there's going to be a sort of a constant ongoing to help maybe either advertise those things or to post pictures from it. And we're not asking for those things to be, I would assume that, or if the rec committee had pictures from a an event going on and they sent them over to say, hey, we got a bunch of pictures from today. Oh, we have to wait till the next meeting to get them posted. No, we're gonna put that. We're gonna try to utilize that as best as possible, right? So I mean, if there's a communication problem as the time goes on, we'll address it. But we want to make sure that we're utilizing it the best to its abilities too.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Pictures and stuff like that. Like if for taking the Canada flag example, you know, if we had those pictures, they could go up there on the website. I was thinking more of just ensuring that flyers and stuff being published, you know, maintain our standards before we post them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a motion regarding this. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Ian Straight that the Committee of the Whole receive the social media update report and that the following be recommended to Council, that Council direct staff to activate a Twitter and Instagram account for the Township and that the account is to be operated solely by the Township staff as directed by Council through resolution. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Back to you again, Joanna, and that's on the revision of personnel policy update or report.
Okay, so this sort of stemmed from Bill C5, which just received royal assent, and that was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada published 94 calls to action, which included the provision to make September 30th a National Annual Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It will be considered a statutory holiday for federal and federally regulated workplaces. A municipality is not considered a federally regulated workplace. There was some discussion amongst the clerks of the county that this should be included in our personnel policy as a statutory holiday. In a lot of the personnel policies, it notes something along the lines of this list of statutory holidays or any other day proclaimed by the federal or provincial governments or council. And so I went and looked at our personnel policy, and at first glance when I read it, I've sort of written it out in the agenda, but it says right now, if a holiday is listed above, except Remembrance Day, falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it shall be recognized on the following Monday or any other day proclaimed by either the federal or provincial governments. So when I read that, that didn't seem clear to me. So I sort of assumed that there had been like a C and a D, one saying that if a holiday is listed, it shall be recognized on the following Monday, and D, any other holiday proclaimed by either federal or provincial governments. So I was sort of assuming that there had been a typo or an error there, that we need to change that to read it that way. I spoke to a couple council members earlier, and they read it a way that perhaps I hadn't thought of, and that was the first one. If a holiday is listed above, falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it should be recognized on the following Monday or any other day proclaimed by the federal or provincial government. So you know, if the federal government has a statutory holiday on the Monday, so would we if they have it on the Friday. So then we would do that as well. It sort of has nothing to do with the approval of a statutory holiday that was put in by the federal or provincial governments. I don't know if that's entirely clear. I'm sorry. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. But what I was recommending is a change to the wording of the personnel policy so that it would read, you know, holidays are recognized on Monday, and then we would also recognize any federal or provincial holidays that were proclaimed, and that the National Truth and Reconciliation Day be listed in those above days. But anyways, now that I've talked to some council members, I'm not entirely clear. So I'm looking for direction from you guys as to whether you want this changed or how you'd like to see this move ahead.
So I'm going to go to Claus and then to Karen.
You're on mute, Klaus.
You're muted, Claus.
Yeah, just a second. Okay, am I good now?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me, Karen. I'll learn someday. Joanna, I tried to follow what you're saying, but it's a little little difficult. I guess the question I have then, if Christmas Day can fall on a Sunday, then you have to recognize it the following Monday. But our office is closed during that week anyway. So do they allow then an extra day when they're scheduled to come back? Because if Christmas falls on Sunday, New Year's falls on Sunday, that involves 2 days. So would they have the Monday and Tuesday following as a statutory holiday?
Yeah, those are statutory holidays on the Monday.
Huh. Okay. Doesn't make sense to me, but anyway. You were saying also, if I may follow up, Reeve, that we can create a statutory holiday ourselves. Am I wrong in hearing that?
That's any other day proclaimed by the federal, provincial governments or council is what wording in some of the Lanark County policies state. Ours just states it was proclaimed by either federal or provincial governments. It doesn't say council.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Karen?
So I was involved in doing the research as well for the stat holiday. And what was found was that there was one municipality I'm aware of that had the wording that included any federal, but the larger municipalities, the wording did not include it. But what was stated was that this would be something then that would be brought forward, say, for example, as a negotiated item moving forward. So, for example, the county non-union don't have this agreement or this in their wording. So they would move forward, say, in 2022, as would, say, some of the other municipalities. So the unions might have had a wording that gave them the federal, but the non-unions did not. The wording that deals with federal and provincial clause with reference to like the stat falling on a Sunday, the legislation says that when it falls on a non-work day, they have to be given another one, which is why, like, for example, the Sunday would move to a Monday. But with the banks who are federally regulated, the banks can't be closed for more than so many days, which is where they have some stat holidays. The way that they juggle them, they can bounce back to a Friday and then to a Monday. And that's where some of the municipalities in the day where you did a lot more on-site deposits compared to what we do now because of online payments, etc., that a lot of the municipalities used to follow. The rule was, is the bank open or is the bank not open, and make the decision about how your office closed. But as I said, now that so many people use online, there's not as many deposits being made by a municipality that they can basically choose which day they want themselves. But just so you're aware, I won't be voting in favor of adding this at this point in time. I would like to use it as a negotiating tool in 2022.
Okay, Jeff, I think, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, and that's what I guess I play with, because I always thought that we fall sort of under the provincial sort of umbrella, and that's where I have, you know, a little bit of a trying to figure out, well, we should be following one or the other, and if it's not a provincial one, I'm a little confused of why we would add it, I guess municipally. If it was provincial, then I'd say like then we would follow that along. I'm kind of curious what the province might end up doing, if they're going to adopt it along the way first, maybe, and then kind of go from there. I'd be curious. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. I think I will ask this to you, Joanna, or I'll put it out to anybody. I guess the whole issue of truth and reconciliation, as far as I'm concerned, is an extremely important and timely issue. But to me, that whole discussion is a separate discussion. And to me, and it has been pointed out already by a taxpayer to me, that my concern is, and it's just a question and a concern, is if we go ahead and push this through or pass this, then is it going to be a precedent? We've got, at least I could name on my hand 3 or 4 different groups and different movements that have been taking shape across Canada, federally and south of the border. And I could easily see some of these groups, I'll say, or movements coming back to the table in the near future and saying that we deserve a day of reconciliation also. So that's a concern of mine. I just don't know if anyone would want to comment on that. Karen?
So when I was answering, I was not answering in reference to the purpose of this new federal stat. I was in reference to just a general federal stat. So for example, Jeff made reference to we fall under provincial because currently the provincial government, including municipalities, gets Family Day, and federally regulated do not. So this is where they're getting now something, but I was just more or less looking at saying we don't just automatically assign the federally regulated. If something changes, as I said, it was not in reference to the reason of this one. So that's why I was trying to stay just separated based on we fall under provincial, we don't fall under regulated or federally, and we leave our personnel policy to state nothing about the federal. It's just with provincial. And then this is totally separate so that down the road, if something does come about where we have more, maybe it ends up being a choice of municipality or of employers or a choice of provinces to make a decision on it. But mine was just more so in reference to whether adding the word federally, including both provincial or not.
Okay. Anything else? Ian?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Councillor Carroll's and Councillor Jennings' perception of this, I guess, is that we kind of fall under the provincial umbrella a little bit more than we do the federal one. And that's how it's kind of been nearly done in the past. I was wondering, Joanna, if you could just correct me. I think that right now the township gets a day off of Remembrance Day. Is that correct?
They get a float.
I have not experienced a Remembrance Day here yet. I'd have to take a look at the policy. I think it's a bit unusual. Andrew, do you remember? Could you fill me in on that?
Yeah, so for the township, when the staff work Remembrance Day, it then allows them to apply that against part of the Christmas shutdown that the township has at the office, so that that's part of the reason that the office is closed over Christmas, is it's a management of the statutory holidays, a mix of that and any time in lieu or use of overtime to fill that in appropriately for Christmas break. And Remembrance Day is written in the personnel policy that way, specifically that it applies, if the staff member works, it's applied towards the Christmas time. Or they can choose to not be at work that day.
Yes, Ian?
Yeah, and this is where, for myself, I guess it gets a little bit dicey for this whole thing, right? Is this, you know, we now have another day that's devoted to truth and reconciliation, which is great, but we also have Remembrance Day that, I guess, in my opinion, really isn't being honored the way that it should be. Getting a day off for Remembrance Day is to remember those people that have you know, provided a sacrifice for our country, gone to war, done all these other great things, you know. And here right now at this present time, which is something I don't really agree with, is that, you know, we work through the day and then all of a sudden we don't remember very minimal about it, and or take the time that really should be taken to devoted to it, and we apply our day off at Christmas time. You know, I think the honor and what it is that we're doing is probably a little bit lacking for myself. And, you know, the whole idea would be, you know, that we honor what the true intention of the day is, not use it for a bonus Christmas day at all. And I think that I'd be awful, you know, afraid that that's what this year might end up turning into as well.
Andrew?
Yeah, so at the township office on Remembrance Day, we do pause at the 11th hour, commemorate Remembrance Day and honor it and remember, which is, you know, part of our day that day at the office. But I was just going to say also, this federal holiday just came into effect August 3rd today. So the province hasn't had time to follow up yet either to decide what they may or may not do in regards to September 30th. So you may find in the near future that the province might follow suit in Ontario with the federal government because of the importance of that day. So we could also, you know, we'll be watching for that to see how that works out as well.
Okay, anything else on this? I am going to read the resolution. I'm not sure whether it'll stay the same as it is, but I'll read it. And if we need to change it, we can. This resolution was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer, that the Committee of the Whole receive the revision of personnel policy report and that the following be recommended to Council. That committee directs staff to bring proposed changes to Council for final approval. Is everybody okay with that resolution as it is? Does anyone want to change that resolution, or can we just go ahead and vote on it the way it is? Okay, I don't see. Yes, Karen?
So I think the intent of the resolution is to add the new federal regulated statutory holiday, as well as amend the policy to state that any future federally regulated as well be awarded to staff.
Mm-hmm. And Ian, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Reeve, I was just going to ask you to clarify that myself or reread it again, but if that's what it says, that's good. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to then ask all in favor. Opposed? So this resolution is defeated. Thank you. Moving on, Joanna, is the next one is yours also, and that's on the tile drain loans borrowing bylaw. I'm sorry, Ian.
Yeah, Reeve, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest regarding this item, as I am practice farming within the municipality, and I do not want to have any conflict in regards to anything of humanitarian interest or anything of that nature. So I will sign off and log out.
Okay. Moving on, then, Joanna, this is back to you.
Okay, so the township received a request for a resident to participate in the tile loan program, which is provided by OMAFRA. It's regulated through the Tile Drainage Act. So, I mean, I don't want to go through this whole report because it gets lengthy, but essentially there's a whole process whereby the applicant applies for a loan, work is completed, you know, the province issues a check to the municipality and we collect loan repayments to pay back the province. And so there are 4 steps. We obtain authority to borrow money under the program by passing a borrowing bylaw. Lenders make an application and have the work performed. Municipality gets an inspector to come take a look at the work and receives money from the province and forwards the funds to the owners. And then we collect the funds afterwards from the owner and repay the province. It has to be done through a series of licensing. The contractors be licensed, the equipment has to be licensed, and the equipment operator completing it has to be licensed. So the landowner is eligible for a loan of up to $50,000 or 75% of the value of the tile drain work, my understanding is it's the absolute maximum is $50,000. Now, I did speak to our drainage superintendent, and he noted that we had passed a borrowing bylaw in 1973 that is still in effect, and that there is $55,800 available through this bylaw. He did note that that's outdated, and the maximum of the province was $50,000. And so, I've given three options. Allow the resident to apply under our bylaw from 1973. Rescind. The second option is to rescind the bylaw and align the new one with current provincial standards of a maximum of 50,000, so that we're in line with what the province has. Or remove the possibility of allowing for tile drain loans, as there would be significant time spent on implementing it, and staff are already at capacity.
Thank you, Joanna. Questions? Karen?
So I've been communicating with Joanna on this, because when I go to the ministry's website, it does not reference the 50,000 max. So we're still trying to find out where that component comes into, because when I went to read it, because it didn't make sense that our 73 bylaw had 55,800 in it, but now there was lesser value. Because to me, tile drain requirements, I'm sure values haven't decreased. So I didn't know why it would possibly go down, which is why I went to the website. So I'm not finding where that maximum comes in. So I'm a little hesitant to be able to vote on it when the wording reads 75% of the project cost, and that there's a 10-year factoring of repaying it back. So that's my hold up on things, in that the site clearly states 75%. It does not state a maximum anywhere.
Yes, Joanna?
So Karen and I went back and forth, like she said, and I spoke with our drainage superintendent. He said 50,000 is straight from the OMAFRA superintendent manual. So he agrees. He can't find a reference like Karen to state the exact maximum value on the website, but he's using the number from whatever the superintendent manual is. We've gone back and forth a couple of times, and he just basically said he's going to look for a little bit more information if he can find it. But he had checked a whole bunch of other borrowing bylaws in the area that are all at $50,000 max. So this all sort of happened today. So I don't know if we want to put a pause on that until we get a straight answer from him or not.
Karen?
And that's the thing. It's like, maybe the others did put it in place because it was recommended as well, because it's in the superintendent manual. But if you go to the actual website, they might not have been aware that it does read this 75%. And I mean, if they can come up with where it is on the OMAFRA website that says 50,000, good. But I don't want to limit it, because as I said, I believe that costs have not gone down, but have gone up. And we do have farmers in our community, and I don't want to be penalizing them. And I think that if we were to check it, there's costs that would exceed $50,000 for them. And I think that if we're going to offer it as something that our farming residents have the ability to access, then I think we should be giving them the full option of getting the value that they can.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry, Claus, yes.
Yeah, thanks, Reeve. Question to Joanna. It appears that the township is going to do quite a bit of work on this.
Mm-hmm.
So our staff time and so forth, I guess the question, who pays for that? Secondly, it appears also to me that the landowner makes application to the township. The township is the person that approves, sends it off to the federal government. The check from the federal government goes to the township, and then we give the check to the landowner, correct?
That's correct.
So where does our responsibility end in the fact if the loan doesn't get paid?
I did ask that question. I asked whether or not we could do a credit check or anything sort of like that to ensure that, we would end up being able to get those monies back, and that is not considered. It's not considered in this process at all. So we would take that loan, I guess, at face value. There's no means to check.
So if the landowner, and I'm not suspecting they would, doesn't pay, does OMAFRA go after them, or do we?
I believe we would.
Really? Second question, what's the interest rate on this loan? Is it 0 or is it...
I would have to look that up for you.
Yeah, we're reading through, I don't see anywhere where it says any kind of an interest rate. I'm sure there must be something.
Yes, Karen?
I can address some of those for Klaus, because when I worked for the town of Smith Falls, there was a program put out as well that had to do with, back in the day, it had to do with updating properties, and it was issued through the government, through the municipality. And I, in turn, had to look after dispersing the money that was applied for by the resident through the municipality, et cetera. And one of the things that it comes back to is if you end up at that time, now I'm not saying in the tile drain, but in that other one, there was different methods in how it could be handled. But one of the things that always come back to is anything that pertains to a property could be added through taxes. So it becomes a lien on the property through the taxes for collection.
Okay, thanks for that, Karen. I have a couple of comments about this. And Claus, you mentioned it about staff time and who would pay for it. And I believe in the report that I did read that that the taxpayers would pay for it.
Yeah.
Which at the moment, which I think is completely unfair to the taxpayer, first of all. And secondly, I knew that something like this existed, but I was actually quite surprised to read about it. And my question, for instance, would be, how many other things do farmers need to do that need a lot of money? I'll give an example, fencing. Start trying to fence your farm and you'll see what it costs. So I personally, this is only my personal opinion, is that I don't think we should be in the banking business. I don't think we should be in the lending business. And I know that this is already, it was a bylaw that was passed in 1973, but I'm not sure that we should have that bylaw now. And you know, as I said, like, why should the taxpayers be paying our staff to look after all of the management or whatever of us lending money to an individual person to incur a big cost for tile draining? What are we going to do when they come asking for, can you lend us money? Can you manage another loan through OMAFRA for fencing our farm? Those are some of my concerns. Klaus first.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, Reeve, I think OMAFRA should do all the documentation on this themselves. They're the ones that created this program. Secondly, does anyone know what tile draining costs per acre? $1,000 an acre. So $50,000 is not going to go very far.
Okay, any other comments and questions? I see Jeff. Yeah, you're muted, Jeff.
You're muted, Jeff.
There you go, Claus. I did that for you, bud. Just to echo kind of what you're saying, readoption is that we put fees in place for all type of things, and I think this is one of those things that maybe because it hasn't been done for so long, we've never attached fees to it because it's if it is a significant staff side of things, and especially if, you know, heaven forbid there's a loan repayment, not on this one, but maybe even the next one. I mean, I wonder if we should maybe revisit this side of it, because I think maybe back in '73, this was, you know, we were in a very different time, and maybe it's not the there is other lending. I mean, I realize this is 0%, but there's other lending agencies out there with pretty record low interest rates for these type of things. So, and I mean, I will lean on that side of the staff where they say there's a significant portion of that. And should that be leaning, I agree, should that be leaning on the rest of the taxpayers? And I don't know if that's entirely right in this instance too as well. So.
Yeah, and I reiterate, I think it's really unfair that that we would put our taxpayers in a position of possibly incurring a huge $50,000 loan that wouldn't be repaid.
Yeah.
We're, like I said, we're not in the banking business as far as I'm concerned. And as someone already mentioned, if this is the provincial government initiative, then let them look after it. Yes,
yep.
Karen.
I don't agree. I mean, they have made it available for how many years to the farmers? And I'd be curious to know how many were past given in Montague, but it's obviously been utilized for it still to be out there. And I mean, we are a rural community. I thought we were supposed to be there for our rural community. And this is there. That's how the province put the money out there. We aren't a bank. I mean, we are the middleman, yes, but I mean, we aren't out the money. The province gives the money to us. We then in turn give it to them. But we have that ability to say, if, for example, somebody defaults on it, then you have the ability to add it to the tax base to still collect the money, because we've had to pay, if we've had to pay it back to the province. But I mean, I go back to back to the day of Smith Falls, I had many on the go that had these loans that had to do with whether it was they replaced windows, because it's before the other programs that were out there. They replaced windows, they put insulation in their homes, they put siding on, things like that. And it did not take a lot of my time to administer them. And it wasn't one, I had many on the go at the time. But it's the fact that that was a program that was there to help them, and that's how it was administered. This is still there to help the farming community. And I'm just not sure why we should turn it down for anybody in the farming community. And I mean, as I said, so at $1,000, $50,000 being the maximum didn't seem right versus the 75% of the total. But we'll see what gets found. But I don't agree in not being there for our community. And as I said, if it was passed in 73, I'm sure something came up for it to have to be passed in 73, that there must have been use of it back then.
Anyone else? Yeah, Jeff?
For me, I want to still get a little bit more. I'm not on a yes, no, or I was just trying to get it. So I'd like to defer it for now, at least until the next meeting, just to get maybe a better grasp of my understanding behind this too as well. If there's an appetite for that, just to get a little bit more understanding.
Yes, Claus?
I would agree with Councillor Carroll. I think we need a little more information basically on our responsibility and how we're going to handle this, through the staff and so forth. And maybe we could do a bit of a questionnaire. How many farmers do you think in Montague would be interested in this? Have we had any? Nothing of this has gone out yet, Joanna? You're muted.
You're on mute, Joanna.
We're all doing a good job there tonight.
We're doing fantastic. Sorry, I was just reading an email I have here about.
Jeff Carroll was saying about maybe putting this on hold and get some more information, and I agree with it. Have we had any farmers requesting any of this? Do they know about it yet, or?
That's why it's here. We've had one resident request it.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in here. So term G of the OMAFRA Tile Loan Application Form 6 says the sum of all loans issued to me as an individual or in my role in a partnership or corporation does not exceed $50,000 for the period of April 1st to March 31st. And so that's where that 50,000 comes from, is application form 6. And the interest rate that somebody asked about is 6% for the 10-year term of the loan. Interest is compounded annually. and the loan can be repaid at any time without penalty.
6%, that's expensive.
Okay, so I'm going to go around and see if we have consensus to defer it. We do have an answer already from Jeff and Claus. I'll go to Ian, or Ian's not with us.
Yeah.
So Karen,
Yes, we can defer it.
and I agree. So I don't think I need to even read this resolution, Joanna, do I? Can I just mark it as deferred?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so thank you everybody for that. And could someone let Ian know?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Ian, you're back. Just to let everybody know that, somebody could be making a whole bunch of money tonight, because I just thought I'd let you know how they handle meetings in the city of Brockville when someone forgets to unmute themselves. They have to pay, every time they do that, they have to pay $25 into a kitty. So somebody would have made about $100 already tonight.
No, thank you.
Yeah, every time that somebody forgets to unmute, they pay $25 into a kitty. I don't know where it goes, but that's where it's at.
I'd be broke.
So keep trying, everybody. We don't want to lose any money. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next, that's 3D. And this report is going to be yours, Stephen. That's on the McLaughlin Road update. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, so this is on McLaughlin Road, temporary improvements. So as noted at previous meetings, there's been negotiation back and forth on funding from the other partner on this, which is Beckwith Township. The total project funding right now stands at $260,000. That was just approved not that long ago. That would be at a 50-50 split. And as we are late in the construction season, it'd be completed in the 2022 season. But in order to complete temporary safety measures for our residents, staff is suggesting that we complete pulverization and placement of a granular material. This will turn it to a gravel surface and just increase the safety for residents which are driving on that roadway, which is a pretty busy roadway. We had St. Lawrence testing, and just as an update, last week they completed their boreholes, and I'm expecting to have a report from them for geotechnical by the end of this week. Beckwith Township has already supplied written confirmation that they are on board with this temporary measure. They think it's a good idea as well to create the safety. Everything included in the report would be completed by Montague Public Works. The costing would be for the pulverization, which would just be for the rental and operator of the machine. Everything else other than a roller, which would be rented in order to achieve ideal compaction, would be done by us. Gravel would be supplied by our current contractor, and in the contractor's current clause, we can increase or decrease by 50%. So we increase the amount that we're placing on the roadway with our current contractor. And then it's approximately, after some numbers, it'd be about $18,000 to do this for 2021. And after it goes through committee and council, it would take place as soon as possible.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions? Claus?
Yeah, good report, Stephen. Thanks very much. Good work. Just curious, you said that the coring was going 1.5 meters or until outer refusal. Was there any outer refusal? I'm just curious.
I'll have to wait to see what the report. I haven't been in touch with the drilling company, just the geotech guy. But in his report, it'll state, I'm sure we all know what Montague's all about. So I imagine there was a bit of refusal.
There'll be some of it, but there'll be, anyway, sorry, just curious.
Okay, Ian?
Yeah, Stephen, I think this is probably a pretty good viable option. I guess my question is are we concerned in the spring about this portion of the road? Once we chip it, it's going to be, will it be more susceptible to frosting and, rutting and all those other things? Or how do we foresee, dealing with that if that is the case?
So this would just be a temporary solution. We'd be doing our maintenance gravel, and then we'd be completing in 2022 would be, as per the geotech recommendations, we'd be doing a full tender process with the available funding of 260 and completing it to ensure that there is no rutting or damage from frost even. This would not be a long-term solution. This is strictly just to rid of the potholes.
No, I definitely understand. I understand that portion of it. Just, to make it through the spring of this upcoming years, or are we confident that we can, make it so it's still drivable, or is that a little bit harder to say until you get the report?
Yeah, again, once we get the report, it'll tell us if it's complete, not that good material underneath it. In those situations, we could use geocloth just to stabilize that. There is municipalities that use that over landfill and put 6 inches of granular, and it's withheld triaxles and that. So that would be an option in some of these damaged spots to use geotech style just for temporary, for sure.
Yeah, I just follow up for you if you don't mind.
Yes.
I just hate to go ahead and pulverize the whole thing. I know it's not great now, but end up with a real big problem in the spring.
Yep, absolutely. I totally understand that question, and it's a great question. And I will look at the geotech, and if we need to place a little bit of geotech, it is not a pretty reasonable cost for the reward of placing it. So that's something we can do in those spots for sure.
Thanks again, Stephen.
Thank you.
So seeing no further questions, then I will read this resolution. So thanks, Steve. Moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Ian Strait, that the Committee of the Whole receive the following report. That's the McLaughlin Road Update Report, and that the following be recommended to Council. That Committee of the Whole advise staff to proceed with pulverizing McLaughlin Road and placing granular M material to increase the surface condition on McLaughlin Road until construction is completed in 2022. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Stephen, for that. The next one is also yours on the roof RFQ results.
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, so staff did complete the RFQ process for the admin peaked roof construction. As per procurement policy, we tendered it the same way with everything, 20 days. We had 9 companies obtain the tender documents, and 1 quotation was received through this whole process. We had multiple companies show up during the site visit. It was an optional site visit. 2 of the companies that came were not willing to attempt the peaked roof construction. They were they would be willing to do a flat roof option. That's all they would do. The 1 contractor, which was at the site visit, they were the one that submitted the pricing. So it did close on July 15th at a cost of $385,000 to complete it. I'm not going to go through everything that they included. They listed everything, and the biggest thing is with the structural components to support this type of roof. I believe everybody was anticipating that it would just be almost like a false roof on top, but the structural came back and it had to go into our existing truss system to anchor in to support the added load. And that is actually where our ductwork and electrical and everything is situated. So that is which drove the price up. Construction costs, as everybody knows as well, is increased astronomically. And trussing companies would not even give this 1 contractor a guaranteed price for 2022 as the demand is so high. Everything else is in the report. It's 950 square feet, which is the size we're focused on. it's important to note that this roof system, flat roofs are used a lot. And when it was completed in 1991, it has a lifespan of 20 years. So it actually is 10 years beyond the life cycle. And as everybody knows, when something is 10 years past its life cycle, usually it begins to deteriorate and in this situation leak. Doing some inspection by the roof, when the asphalt was replaced, the transition between asphalt and the roof membrane actually created more bowl. And so now whenever there's a rainstorm, when you look from the association hall, there is a pool of water sitting on our roof. So it is likely that that water is filtrating through due to the old roof and the improper tin work that was with our roofing. The one option for this, as a municipality, we are currently in the feasibility study. Instead of completing such a large financial hit like this as $385,000, it could be looked at to complete another flat roof option. In talking to some local contractors, it was about $30 square foot. It works out to $29,000, and that's about 7.5% of the peak roof option. One important is it would be hopefully completed in 2021 if it went with flat roof. And also when we completed this as a grant, it was anticipated for $100,000. It was stated in the grant application that it was for a peaked roof. So staff is reaching out to the application committee right now to see if a flat roof option was to go through, if this is something that they would allow. And then if that went through, there was in the grant as well that windows and fixtures such as that could be replaced as well with the additional funding. Sorry for the long report, and that is it.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Any questions? Jeff?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I mean, I think this has been a painful process for a few years now, and I mean, I guess we're at an option now where, I mean, peaking it is not structurally viable. So I mean, it's sort of like the best of the bad options that we have with this building. But I mean, I'm hoping that we're going to come through with we're going to have to fix it with the flat roof option, and hopefully that the committees will come back saying that we can use the rest of the money to fix windows and everything else, and we can try to spin this to as much as a positive. But it's also a lesson learned of delaying things by 10 years really does cause a big mess too as well. So thanks again, Steve, and yeah, thanks.
I think maybe I saw your hand, Ian. Yeah, you're reflecting quite a bit.
I got a little flash in there. I don't know how I need to grow more.
That's
here.
okay. I'll try to catch you most of the time.
So yeah, I know this really doesn't lie on you, Stephen, by any means, in way, shape, or form. I guess I'm just a little bit confused as all the different directions that we're taking right now in regards to administration buildings, studies, and everything else. We just saw a study that we paid money for the 22 acres, which completely utilized the whole 22 acres. We have another study in the works right now that is 70-some thousand. I could be wrong. I'm just ballparking that to look at all these administration buildings and to let the people. They're going to tell us whether they're savable or they're not, and what maybe the best options are going forward. And now we have another option of redoing the roof and sticking with essentially what it is that we have. We're going to spend another $100,000 of taxpayers' money, or whatever it might be at the end of the day. You know, I think that there comes a time where we have to make a decision about what it is that we're doing here. And I really hate to waste any more of our staff time or our taxpayers' money in regards to any of this. I think that we need to, you know, is there a patch that we can do? Can this grant be due to COVID? Can this grant be extended into 2022? I would hate to go and put a flat roof on this and then have it coming back and say, yeah, you know what, you need to demolish it. This is a waste of money. And at the end of the day, if we're not going to utilize it, and you're going to go over, you're going to build on the 22 acres, then you're fixing up a building that you're not even going to use, and then you're just going to have to continue to maintain for years upon years upon years. So is there an option, I guess, for this to be extended into 22? Is there a very, very temporary fix that we can put in place to limp through this until we get our study back that we paid for?
Yes, Steve, if you wish.
Yes, Andrew can correct me if I am wrong, but I believe this funding for rural communities was extended to 2022, December 31st. So for us, we would be able to. As for a temporary solution, I'm by no means a roofing expert, but I could definitely reach out to some guys and see what we could have done. I'm not guaranteeing that a temporary solution will do anything, just what this state it is in, but it's something that if council would like, I can absolutely explore.
I guess personally, I just think it would be a way to do something if there is an option that allows us to not spend any more money, waste our grant money on something that you may not even utilize in the future. I think it's worth taking a look at.
Okay, I have Claus and then Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Reeve. Steve, I agree with Councillor Straight. I hate to see us pouring 300 and some thousand or even 100,000 into a building that they may tell us to tear down. I'd like to move on to this new feasibility study as quick as we possibly can. I know it takes time, but I really like to see some other solution from a roofing company to fix this so we don't get water leaking down through. And of course, we're going to be coming into winter here pretty soon, believe it or not, and snow melting and ice building up and so on. So I hate to put it all back on you, Stephen, but I think, can we take a look at some other option? Because to spend $300 and some thousand, I think that's not a good plan to me.
So it looks like we'll have to get some staff direction in a few minutes, but I'll deal with that after we hear from everyone. So next I have Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I hear those concerns, and I mean, one thing is, I mean, yes, all money, if it comes from grant or if it comes from anywhere, it is taxpayer money. But this is a grant option that didn't come from our mill rate money. So I think, we obviously want to make sure that if the money is there, we want to use it and use it as appropriate as possible. And I mean, I think like anything else, we're not going to be building new buildings next year. We're going through the process, and one thing I've learned in my short time in politics and in the municipal world is things don't move very quickly. So, I mean, we're years away. We're not into a temporary fix of something. We're years away from the development process and the implementation and then the actual move over of a build or whatever we're doing. So, I mean, a temporary fix really is even putting the flat roof on, because it's going to have to be something that's going to be for 5 years before really any move happens or anything along those lines. So I'm in favor of trying to go forward and doing what we can to use what we have and to salvage the building what we have, because if there's a use for it, maybe even at the end of where we're going, we don't know what the use of this building is. So to let it completely fall apart is not really the option, I don't think. I think it'd be prudent for us to use that grant money that's there, because if we don't use it, we lose it. So we're no better off at that point. So, I mean, I like the idea of really trying to investigate into finding that solution for it's not my, I mean, I wanted to be, I mean, I was really adamant about about peaking it, but I think this solves the short-term problem, which is not really that short-term. So it's, I'm kind of hoping we kind of go that direction because there's a lot of staff time also put into this too as well. So thanks.
Okay, Claus and then Ian.
Yeah, I do agree with Councillor Carroll. So I'm wondering, Stephen, can you go back, and because we do have the grant money, okay, to see what's possible to do for $100,000? Is there something that can be fixed for that kind of money?
Yo, I think you had your hand up there.
Sorry, I was taking it from you, which wasn't fair, but we don't know that we do have the grant money, because like Steve was saying before, the grant money was specifically for a peaked roof.
Oh.
So we have to go back and talk to them to see if they would accept something other than what we applied for. And we don't know the answer to that. So we have to reach out to them and figure that out. It may be that we don't have a grant. It may be that we still do, or part of a grant or something. So we need to.
The peak roof was going to be $360,000. I'm sure
385.
Sorry.
385.
385. All right. I'm sure they must realize that there's no way that that's worthwhile spending that kind of money on an old building.
Okay,
I mean, that's the hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm going to go to Ian and then we'll move on.
So I kind of disagree with what it is that we're saying. I don't see this being 5 years down the road. There's almost $6 million in the reserve fund. So I don't know why our staff have to work in substandard conditions for 5 or 6 years when there's money that can be borrowed from the government at next to 0% interest, and we have $6 million sitting in our reserves that we're not even utilizing. So if somebody can figure that out, that'd be awesome. The other thing is, yeah, you do have a grant right now, or potentially, whatever it might be at the end of the day. But if you go and you do it wrong, and you spend $100,000 and turn around and have to spend another $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on something that may not be there because the feasibility study comes back or the report comes back and says, hey, you know what, you should just tear it down. Well, you just wasted the grant money, and now that grant money can't be used on another piece of the building later on. That be integral part of the puzzle. So I think that patching it, waiting until for the end of the study, if we can come up with a viable solution that'll get us through the winter, then that's where we're at. We're not going to get rafters and everything else for the end of the year anyway. We've patched this roof. We tried to put new roofs on it before, and 3 or 4 years later, you come back and it's leaking again. It's just what you get with a flat roof.
Joanna?
I believe, I just wanted to point out that as I recollect, this roof was considered to be in a state of emergency, and they didn't believe it would last past spring. It has, but we've had some significant leakage. And so whatever's decided has to be able to happen quite quickly for legitimate health and safety reasons.
Good. Anything else? Anyone else? Jeff?
Is there maybe an ETA, or we've just asked recently, like of when they're going to come back to say, yeah, you can use it to fix your flat roof, which is in terrible shape right now, and you can use it to also replace some windows too as well. Is that do we have maybe a time frame?
I don't believe we have a time frame. We are not to pester them, but we're definitely poking at them to try and get this answer as soon as we can. And hopefully the next meeting's a month away, so hopefully we can have an answer by then would be hopefully the goal. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Jeff?
Like I'm up for, once again, I'm up for the staff direction where if they say it's okay that we can do that, then utilize it for that. Because I mean, I hear what Councilor Straight's saying to us. Well, they're not going to say, hey, we're going to let you use it for the future project of a future. You're going to have to apply for a different grant for that. We're asking hopefully to try to keep it in the same scope. And I think that's the, I'm 100% behind. Let's, it's not the option I wanted, but it's the best of the bad options we have, in my opinion. And I think we should, if they approve it, I'm for not waiting for the next meeting. I'm saying, yeah, then go ahead and do it. If they don't approve it, then we're going to have to discuss the next meeting, what we're truly going to do. So that's my sort of side. If there's enough support on that side, that's the direction I'm going. So.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this motion, and then I think what I might do is suggest at the end of it a little addendum to try to move this forward, but we'll see how this goes. This motion was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Klaus Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole received the following report. That's the roof RFQ results, and that the following be recommended to council, that council committee of the whole directs staff to proceed with obtaining flat roof replacement quotations as per township procurement policy, what I was thinking about adding, something like this, and Joanne, I'm going to ask for your expertise here, but would we be able to add an addendum that would say something like, on the condition that we still can get the funding? Because that way we're going to be voting on the resolution as it is written. All we're adding is on the condition that we still can get funding to do it.
Okay, so I have that committee of the whole direct staff to proceed with obtaining flat roof replacement quotations as per the township procurement policy on the conditions that the township can obtain the appropriate funding from, I can't remember who the grant was from. Do you have that, Steve?
We can just leave it at that we would receive the appropriate funding. I mean, that covers it, I think, doesn't it?
I see IP COVID stream. It's on the last little bit of my report there, Joe.
Sorry, Steve.
So knowing then that you can add that to it, if we pass this, Joanna, then if you can add that part. So then I think what I'm going to do is ask for the vote now, unless somebody else wants to add anything last minute. Okay, so all in favor of this amended motion? Any opposed? Okay, so this amended motion is carried. Okay, thank you. And I think this will be one, Joanna, that I will have to re-sign. I've just signed this one as amended, but it'll have to be rewritten and I can sign this one later. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Stephen, for that. The next one is also yours, and that's on the disposal of the 06 International Plow Truck.
Thank you. Yes, so as council is aware, we did recently purchase the 2001 plow truck, which replaced our 06. As per our procurement policy, I had to submit to the clerk a list of our surplus goods. Currently, our procurement policy states it has to be tendered on our municipal website. For the financial interest of the municipality, it would be best to go around this with the approval of council and use a online auction site such as a GovDeals or something like that. In the past, the Montague Township has had very good luck with GovDeals and sites like that of obtaining, I'd say, above market value for vehicles that are surplus to our needs. So the recommendation is to submit this to allow staff to use the 2006 International Plow as surplus and to exempt the procurement policy and authorize staff to place it on an auction site as determined by the department head with a reserve price of $8,000. I did do some research on pricing, and it appears that we will do very well with a truck like this. It's in the $7,000 to $25,000 range on multiple vehicles that I looked at.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Any questions? Seeing none, I have a motion. It was moved by Claus Vandermeer, seconded by Jeff Carroll. That the committee of the whole received the following report. That is the disposal of 06 International Plow Truck. That the following be recommended to council. That council to declare the 2006 International Plow Truck surplus to municipal needs, and that council exempt the procurement policy and authorize staff to place the 2006 International on an auction site as determined by the department head with a reserve price of $8,000. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Stephen.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
So since our procurement policy seems to be outdated in having the ability to do this, should we update the procurement policy to include this?
I guess maybe just to try to help answer that question, Karen, it's probably a very good question. And I think maybe our staff has heard it, and maybe between our Public Works and Joanna, they could come back with that at a future meeting. Do we need staff direction for that?
Probably
It's not-
should have
that-
staff
that-
direction.
It's not particularly on the agenda anyway, so, but it's a good question. So I just, council, want to leave this. Yes, Joanna?
I say, if you want to go ahead, it would be good to have it as staff direction so it can be on our council assigned tasks, so we don't miss it.
Okay, so I suspect that you're a yes then, Karen?
Yes, please.
Okay, Ian? Claus? Oh, we're gonna get another $25 out of him.
I will be broke by the end of the night. Yes.
Okay, Jeff?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have mine. So we have consensus there, Steve and Joanna? Okay, thank you. Steve, the next one is yours, also on the grader repair.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, so this is on the John Deere 2014 grader. It was purchased, I believe, in 2016 or 18. It was used when we purchased it. We've had quite the year with maintenance on this specific item. We had a previous bill of $28,000, and then on June 30th, after completing all of our routine maintenance, stone, our operator heard a noise, and upon investigation, the rear diff is unfortunately gone in it. And John Deere is completing a quote right now, and they've gave a verbal of 40,000 is what they're anticipating. It is expensive, but it's full of very labor intensive job. Everything in there, pretty lucky it didn't burn the heat of it just from the brakes being seized on. It took the tamper out of some metal. There was and it's something that they haven't seen too much because it was very bad. So staff's basically looking for direction from council to go ahead and have the grader repaired. It's important to note that yes, if we don't repair it, we could have an option of getting rid of it. It's really not worth anything on a market when it's not repaired. So staff has a recommendation to have it repaired, and council's discussion above that.
Buzz?
Thanks, Stephen. Unfortunate, nobody probably knows why this happened or how something like this would happen.
It's to do with a brake line, some sort of brake being seized on. It's very hard for our staff to indicate, or if they even knew it was stuck on. It could have been very slightly on, and the operator was just continuing on and didn't feel any resistance. It's very hard to indicate if our staff would have known something was going on. There was no sensor light activated on the dash from our operator, so that wouldn't have given an indication.
Okay, yeah, just to follow up, Reed, if I could. I mean, I agree we have to fix it because we got to move on. But I think at budget time next year, we should take a serious look at this piece of equipment.
Okay, Ian?
Stephen, have they given me any indication of what it might be worth in the condition it's in right now?
They haven't on a trade-in or anything like that. They haven't given me a value. Again, on the gov deals, I've done a bit of research, and units that are exact same as our model, exact same hours, they're going in the 150 range right now. Currently on gov deals, has been, I believe it was 4 or 5 of them the past year have went for that amount of monies. It's definitely something that I can explore, just kind of seeing what the market would be. I don't think that ever hurts to know what the going rate is.
Follow up for you?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's just interesting. Do you dump the $40,000 into it, or do you take the $40,000, put it to another one? I guess it all depends on what they would give you for the existing piece of iron. If you know that it's worth $150,000 now, Anything north of 110 on a piece of paper, I guess, is money ahead. Reality, if that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought there, Ian. Like, if we were lucky enough to get 150, you put the 150 towards a new machine, plus the 40 that you're saving on the repairs, you're up to pushing $200,000 right off the bat. One of the is it $350,000 they're worth approximately that new, Stephen?
That was a ballpark. I haven't dug into exactly a model or got any written or verbal quotes from contractors, but that's something in our roads need study. That's what they're listed at, and I've seen many new models listed at that replacement value.
Follow up, Ray?
Yes, Ian.
Yeah. So is this time sensitive for you, Stephen? Like, if we waited until next council, it would allow you to do a little bit more research to answer those questions, if that's possible, or does this have to be decided tonight and give somebody the green light?
I think it becomes time sensitive for where it is right now currently, as it's torn apart on the John Deere floor currently. I'm not sure what their fees will be for having it torn apart and sitting still in their shop. I'm sure that's worth quite a bit of money to them to have that bay occupied. The one thing is, if we don't look at replacement, we're already getting calls on the gravel road conditions just as we're late in the year. So the longer we put the decision to even have it repaired, if we're going to keep it long term or not, the longer we delay the process of deciding if there's going to be monies put into it, it could affect the operation side to an extent where we already had a greater breakdown and we're without one, and it's just, we could fall behind if we delay it too much longer.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was already torn apart. So certainly, if it is, even if we're not going to do something with it, they still have to put it back together again and get it out of there. So there's still going to be a cost there anyways. So do we have any? Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Steve, and then I'll go to Jeff.
Just for further information, the reason they had to tear it apart is they weren't able to give us a cost analysis as it was sitting still as this internal matter. So they couldn't go forward and do anything without having a look at what the inside components look like.
Yeah. Jeff?
I mean, I think it's important that we do go ahead and fix it, so we have the machine back and working for ourselves too as well. It's also, I mean, a machine is worth more when it's working. I mean, if we want to use that $150,000 as a number, I don't think we're going to get $110,000 for a broken machine. We're going to get 75 or 80. So I mean, like, investing the $40,000, and if we decide that next year we should buy a new one and sell this one, we'll be able to sell it for, in theory, $150,000, and we've got the use out of it still, and we can make that money back. So I mean, I think not fixing it is not the option. I think we have to fix it, and then we can continue to discuss exactly what I agree with Deputy Vandermeer, is that we can have that into that discussion point of if we want to change it or we want to do it. So I agree on that line. So I think we need to repair it right now.
Okay, so I think I'm going to move on then. I'm going to read this motion. It was moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Karen Jennings that the Committee of the Whole received the following report, the greater repair report, and that the following be recommended to Council, that Committee of the Whole direct staff to have greater 14 repairs completed. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Steve. And guess what? You still have another one there, Stephen. We can go through these fairly quickly. This second quarter activity report. Do you have anything to say to this report other than what we've already got, Stephen?
I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Just to note the last attachment with the picture that's there. It does go for a final inspection on Friday, so I'm hoping that we should see this backhoe early next week. So that's exciting for Public Works.
Okay, see no questions. I do have a motion moved by Karen Jennings and seconded by Ian Straight that the Committee of the Whole receive the following report, the second quarter activity report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you for that one, Stephen. Next, I'm going to go to Andrew, yours. Andrew Hodge, our treasurer. That's for the second quarter overtime report. Do you have anything else to add to this other than the report that we've seen, Andrew?
Not unless there are any questions. This is essentially just a report for information this evening.
Yeah. So I do have one question, Claus.
You're still on mute.
It's $50.
Sorry,
Up to 75.
I've got a bit of an emergency that happened upstairs. Something broke, and I gotta go take a look at it quickly. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion moved by Ian Straight. This one is seconded by Claus, but he's not here, so I need a seconder for this. Karen Jennings. Thank you, Karen. That the Committee of the Whole receive the following report. That's the second quarter overtime report. And that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next one, Andrew, is yours also, and that's on the second quarter financial report. Anything you wanted to add?
Nothing really specific, just to say that aside from the information you received this evening about the grader, for the most part, everything else is tracking on our budget to actuals the way we would anticipate. So things are looking good in the end of the second quarter.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, question?
I mean, I just have more of a comment on the planning side of things. I think it's, kudos to obviously to the planning side and to Mr. Hunter, because I mean, obviously they've been working like gangbusters, because the budget is telling us that we are at a record year for that, and we're only halfway through the year. So I think that's a great stream that we're seeing that's as part of that growth, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's a pretty good stream that's already come in. So just a note on that. So thanks for that.
Thanks, Jeff. I have a motion moved by, I need a mover for this one. Claus isn't here, so moved by Ian Straight. Seconded by, I'm sorry. So this one's moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Ian Straight. I can't do that. Sorry, Ian. I need a mover for this one. Jeff Carroll. And it's seconded by Ian Straight, that the Committee of the Whole receive the second quarter financial report, and that the following be recommended to council, that we receive this second quarter report as information. All in favor? Thank you. Now we have the next one is the second quarter MLEO report. Any questions on that? Jeff?
Just a comment, because I made this comment earlier to Joanna too, as well, is that this report was the most detailed, and I think this is one that came up from where it was like to be done this way, and things had changed in past councils to simplify it. And I know sometimes we look for a lot of detail. This was the best MLE report as far as giving us the most amount of detail of what transpires there, and I think this was a very informative report to get. So anyway, that's my comment on that. Thank you.
That's okay, Jeff. You just took the words out of my mouth. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so then no more hands? Okay, I do have a motion. It was moved by Ian Straight, seconded by Claus Vandermeer, that the Committee of the Whole receive the following report. the second quarter MLEO report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. All in favor? That's carried. And moving on to the second quarter fire report and the second quarter water report. I do see that we do have Miles, our fire chief, with us. And also the person who looks after both of these reports. So I'll ask you, Miles, is there anything you wanted to add? We may not have any questions, but I think we've got it all in black and white in the report, but is there anything you wanted to add here first?
Not at this time for either report.
Okay. Okay, thank you for this. No questions. I have a motion. It was moved by Karen Jennings, seconded by Jeff Carroll, that the committee of the whole receive the following report, the second quarter fire report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Also moved by Jeff Carroll and seconded by Ian Straight, that the committee of the whole receive the following report, the water operator second quarter water report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. All in favor? Thank you. The next one is the next motion moved by Karen Jennings, second by Ian Straight, that the committee of the whole receive the following report, the second quarter building report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. And I guess I'll just say that to me, when I read this, the results or this report is resulting in exactly where we've been talking about Montague is going, in the direction that it's going. And so it's a great report, and I think it's a good news story. It continues, but it's exactly where it's been going for the last, I guess, year or two. So any questions? Then I have this motion moved by Karen Jennings, second by Ian Straight, that the committee of the whole receive the second quarter building report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. No questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the next motion is moved by Ian Straight, second by Claus Vandermeer, that the committee of the whole receive the following report, that's being the second quarter planning report, and that the following be recommended to council, that council accept the second quarter report as information. No questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And before we adjourn the committee meeting, I'm going to ask Christy or Joanna if there are any questions.
I have a few questions here, so I'll go first, Joanna. So the first one I have is, it says, possibly could the township do a study on how many farmers would use the program? I'm assuming they're talking about that tile drain program. So that's their question about doing a study.
Anybody want to comment on that? First of all, we would not be able to do a study immediately because it's not in the budget. I'm not sure, I guess I'm not sure whether we have a list of farmers that could be contacted or not. But the question about a study, certainly if it was going to be a study that would be costing money, we would not be able to do that now, in my estimation. We might be able to do some in-house work to find out, to see if we even have a list of farmers. I'm not sure that we do. But anyways, I do see your hand up, Claus.
Thanks, Ray. Actually, that was a question I was asking Joanna. Could we possibly, our next newsletter, put a little blurb in there that this is available to get an idea from farmers?
I mean, we could, but it's been deferred.
It's been deferred right now. We can't make a decision about that till after, at least after the next meeting.
And after next, yeah, okay, I realize that. Thank you. But maybe after the next meeting, rather than, I agree, we can't spend money on a study right now, but after our next meeting, we could, you know, send, when's the newsletter go out in the fall?
The Montague Messenger goes out with the tax bill.
Okay. Maybe one sometime in the fall then. Just a suggestion, that's all.
Okay, the next question.
So the next question is regarding the Twitter and Instagram accounts. It says only staff will have access. Does this mean only staff can post to it?
Can you repeat that question again, Christy, please?
Yeah, it says regarding the Twitter and Instagram account, it says only staff will have access. Does that mean only staff can post to it?
Oh.
Joanna?
That is certainly the intent, yes.
Okay. Next question, please.
The next one says, it's more of a statement, but it says, for what it's worth, I hope council agrees to pulverize McLaughlin Road. Too much time and money have been wasted trying to maintain it. Third, in the recreation budget, it shows revenue as bracket 200 bracket. Does this mean negative 200 revenue? How is it negative? And the people using the hall for pickleball, did they not pay a rental fee? And in expenditures, what is the miscellaneous amount of $1,508?
Maybe I'll go to you if you have any answers on that, Andrew, please.
Yes, so the $200 is a deposit refund for an event that couldn't take place in the Rosedale Hall. And as far as I know, pickleball is not paying a fee. They use the hall under the criteria of the hall rental parameters. And the miscellaneous expense of $1,508 for recreation, I believe that's to do with the flags and the putting up of the flagpole that was taking place. So there's the expenses for that.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Next question.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Joanna, do you have any?
That's all that I have as well.
Okay, Karen?
Well, that just raised a question then, is why pickleball doesn't pay a fee as a user to use the hall?
We can look into that.
Okay.
Christy might have discussed that with them at some point and have top of mind on that one.
Okay, Jeff?
Just to loosely answer that, that was part of when we were doing the recreation side of things of having the hall, the free service of it for the use of certain types of events for Montague residents, for people that are a Montague residents, and a Montague resident's the one that rented it. So she fell under that one of those clauses that we put in the recreation, the new billings, the way we do it.
I'd say that's stretching it a little. That's not the intent of the hall rental, in my opinion.
But the other question that I would have is, do we have any idea, the people using the hall for pickleball, are some of them or all of them or none of them residents of Montague? We have no idea, do we?
We know the organizer is who rented it is from Montague.
Yeah, the organizer is possibly, but
is all the people that go there, are they all Montague? I mean, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, and we have those discussions take place all the time with the arena in Smith Falls. There's so many users, and they certainly do have a different criteria for use for non-residents and residents. But I guess I think it's a good question, Karen. And my thought is that it needs some discussion. I think because of your question, I think it should come back to another meeting.
Yep.
I will ask if that can, do we have staff direction for that? So Karen, you say yes. Ian?
Yes.
Claude?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yeah.
And myself is fine. So staff direction there is to just look into the criteria, whether we need a policy there or not, whether it needs any policy change or not. I'm also thinking that there'll probably be now a discussion at the Recreation Committee level, maybe. I think council needs to discuss it again. So we've got staff direction. Okay, Joanna, please. Okay, thanks. So then moving on, I should have said this first, but we have no reports of committees, no petitions, motions, notice of motions, and no unfinished business. So I do have a motion here that was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Claude Vandermeer that the committee of the whole meeting do now adjourn at 8:51. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And now, if you hold on one sec, please. So the committee meeting is adjourned. And we're going to go back into our next meeting. And I have a motion. It was moved by Ian Straight and seconded by Claude Vandermeer that council reconvene at 8:52. All in favor? That is carried. Next motion is moved by Claude Vandermeer, seconded by Jeff Carroll, that this council moves into closed session as per S 239(2) of the Municipal Act S0/2001 in order to address two items: personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees; personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. That's the same thing. More specifically, personal matters about an identifiable individual. All in favor? And that's carried.